Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
Good evening. I'm Rox Berkey, and I want to invite you to enjoy a wonderful conversation between myself and John Alexander. John is not only an accomplished author, but he's a technologist by background. And John, thank you for joining tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm certainly glad to be on the show. It sounds great.
So one of the things I found most interesting, John, about how you have evolved into your current writings is that you really started out as a high-tech person and you were writing a lot of technical manuals, and now your forte seems to be with children's books. And
right, that's quite a switch. I guess I switched from my left brain to my right brain, so to speak. I found that I guess during the last 5 years of my high-tech career, after writing a couple of technical books, I said, I'm not into writing technical books, but I love writing. So I actually wrote a novel called The ENCLAVE. It's a mystery suspense technology-based novel. Sort of leveraged my background in the technology field, and I thoroughly enjoyed the writing process. I would write small segments, a lot of them on planes between Dallas and California. And then I worked about a year and a half with an editor, polishing the book, learning a lot about writing and the process. And then when I actually got out of the technology field, I always had a children's book in mind. And so after, in the, I guess, late 2014, I actually sat down and wrote a children's mystery. It's a chapter book, not too long, about 100 pages, and I just loved it. I grew up sort of reading mystery books myself and thoroughly enjoyed those, and I wanted kids to find out early in life that reading is fun. So I just wrote books that I thought kids would enjoy, and certainly mystery always intrigued me growing up.
And that sort of kind of opened the doorway, I think, from what I recall in our conversations before, to you doing actually a picture book, and that's along the lines of you want children at a very young age to be in love with reading.
Absolutely.
That fair statement? Absolutely.
That I think, reading benefits kids so much, and it'll benefit them for the rest of their lives. So the earlier they discover that reading is fun and fall in love with reading, they can visit places that they may never get to see physically, but they can be there in stories. Just love that opportunity for kids.
So it's very nice that somebody of your professional background and now writing skills would really almost be, dedicated to helping children. I know you have children, grandchildren, and you just plain like kids, but Words That Soar is a very interesting and imaginative venue to open the doors for children. Tell us how you came up with this layout.
Well, I started rhyming in the spring of 2017, and I wrote quite a few rhyming texts, a lot of them targeting children, but I found that adults related to the stories fairly well, and I actually published a lot of those inside of the poetry book that I released. But Words That Soar, actually, someone challenged me to write a story that surrounded 3 rules. And so in the story, when the child is presented with the book from the old bookstore owner, he gives him 3 rules. And the first one was, don't fear words that soar, and don't keep words deep inside. And the words that you write, you must share and not hide. I think that relates to all of us. And it relates to that child inside us as well. But I think children especially with the illustrations that were done, where the words literally come to life, and he experiences those 3 rules in his bedroom late one night. I think that's going to be fascinating for children, and hopefully lead to a fascination with books.
Oh, absolutely. Having words that fly, I think is just amazing. And the cover depicts that so beautifully. I know that you worked with an illustrator to kind of get that look, and it took a while to achieve it, but it's remarkable because words that fly off the pages and into your imagination are obviously what we all enjoy, especially authors.
Right.
So now in this particular story, you've designed it to be kind of multiple grades, so it can be read to children and enjoyed as early as 3, right?
Right. I think someone, even 3 years old can become fascinated with words. And I think children, as they're, grasping language and grasping the written word, children are reading earlier and earlier these days, especially, from 3 up. And I think this fascination with words can begin that early.
And I think that it encourages parents, of course, to read with their children at a very early age to help get that imagination going. But then because there are words in here, I mean, children, even as old as I think we talked about 8 years old, really get some pleasure and enjoyment out of reading it themselves and putting their own, emphasis on different things.
Right. And then I think the rhyme and rhythm are important as well. I think that plays well to younger children, but I think older children, it helps them remember the 3 rules. The fact that there's rhyme and rhythm in the rules themselves just sort of embeds it in the brain better, I think.
And I think that's a great point. I think one of the other real special things you did with this story is you actually created a narration for it, right?
There's some narration in the book, and I decided that I wanted to make sure that kids had access to the book. I said, what better way to do that than just have it as a YouTube video, and parents can go out there, play it for themselves, and hear it read by the author, so that they get the full impact of the book. And if they like it, they can certainly get a copy. But if the kids like it and they have a good way to let the kids enjoy it, they can do it. Have it played to the children regularly.
So I have to ask: is the bookstore owner based on yourself, John?
The bookstore owner I would describe as a cross between Santa Claus and Albert Einstein. I don't think that describes me, but some people have given me that Santa Claus look as I get a little more white in my hair.
No, but I think the kindness of it and your love of writing and poetry certainly wouldn't be a bad fit for you to be the owner of that store.
Thank you.
So where are your books? Where is this particular book, Words That Soar? Where is it available?
Well, the hard copy is through Ingram, so it's certainly available through Ingram to libraries, anywhere. And then it's also available paperback and on hard copy on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all of the normal places that you would go to order a book, just as an individual.
And so if someone walked into any bookstore, it could be ordered for them as well. So those people that are watching and listening to this show need to know that those books can be ordered from any bookstore because of the way that it's been positioned. And I noticed for those people that are actually watching this video, Words That Soar is right above you on the left-hand side of the picture. And I mean, those wings and the words are lovely, just lovely. Right. So, okay, now I have to ask the wonderful question. Children enjoy this. The reviews have been good, though anyone who wants to do more reviews, you wouldn't mind that. But is there a sequel somewhere in the future?
Well, I've actually put a text together this just focuses on words, and I thought, well, that's really focusing on, authors, so to speak. But I wanted to give illustrators a fair share as well. So I've written a sequel called Colors That Soar. That's the working title.
Okay.
Some have said maybe Colors That Swirl, and others have said, oh no, you got to stick with Colors That Soar. So the sequel is in the works, and I'm polishing that now. I'm not sure, I don't have a release date in mind yet. It's still a working copy.
But it might be available for Christmas in 2019?
I'm actually in 12 by 12, which is an excellent writing group for writers and illustrators. And I would actually love to find a traditional publishing route for Colors That Soar, and it would be wonderful if we hit 2019. But 2020 would be equally as good.
And that would be awesome. So quickly before we're going to take a break, can you invite people to come to your website, because your website is really fascinating and packed with lots of information. So can you give out that website name, please?
Sure. My website is alexandernovels.com, and on there are several tabs. I've got tabs for my books, tabs for upcoming events. This one was on there, for example. And I've also got, some bio information, a bit about my background. And I also have a blog where, several, maybe once a month, once every few months, I'll put a recent poetry entry out there. I look at it as a place for me to just sit on the front porch with someone and have a visit. And that's sort of how my blogs ring. I'll just post a bit of poetry out there or a note. Christmas before last, I actually went to the Arboretum here in Dallas, and they have the 12 Days of Christmas. So I took pictures from there and posted them for others to enjoy.
Oh, I think that's awesome. And so I want to break at this point. I want to get a little bit of the messages from our sponsors, and then I want to come back and talk about some of your chapter books for children.
Great, thank you.
What would you do if you found out everyone on the town council were thieves and murderers? That's what happened in Bandera, Texas in 1873. John Cruder was the marshal, yet he needed to operate outside the law in order to balance the scales of justice. He is the Midnight Marauder. You can find his books on Amazon.com and TopWesterns.com in paperback, digital, and audio. I'm Roy Clinton, and I hope you'll read The Midnight Marauder.
Love to read? Love to meet authors in person? Then check out bookfestival.network to find a book festival in your region of Texas. We are adding book festival events throughout the year, so sign up to get notices and even a coupon towards purchase of a Texas author's book. Sign up at bookfestival.network.
The Best of Eve, Recipes from Around the World. This was written by Eve, who was born in Holland and lived in South Africa and eventually came to Texas. This is no ordinary recipe book. This has herbs and spices and liqueurs and has a short story about Eve. The Best of Eve can be purchased on Amazon, and it is written by Helen Monday.
I am Grace Allison Blair, an award-winning author, motivational speaker, and modern mystic. I have combined spiritual and psychological principles in my nonfiction self-help books under Grace Allison and fiction books under Grace Blair. Go to modernmysticmedia.com to find Do You Have a Dream? 5 Keys to Realize Your Dream, and my novel, Einstein's Compass, a YA time traveler adventure.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show,
So welcome back. This is Rox Berkey, and I'm here with John Alexander to continue our conversation. And John, when we left off, we were talking about going into a little bit of detail with regards to your children's chapter books. And you have more than one of these going on. So tell us a little bit about how you got started in these, please.
Well, when I wrote my mystery suspense novel for adults, I was still working full time. And during that time, I sort of had a children's book in mind because when I was growing up, I enjoyed reading mysteries. I have to admit, I read, I think, all of the Hardy Boys, and I had to switch to Nancy Drew because I ran out of Hardy Boy books. And so when I conceptualized this first book in the series, I didn't actually know it was going to be a series. I was just going to write a mystery that kids would enjoy. So I had third and fourth grade sisters who solved a mystery. And I actually cheated a little bit. I used my grandchildren as my role models for the personalities of the two sisters because I knew how they'd react in each given situation. So I put them in the story as the two sisters who solved the mystery. And I wrote the first one, and I loved it. I had a ball with it and decided to write another one. So I wrote a second one, and then a third one came along, and I just, I did 3 in a row. And then I started writing one that was the fourth one in the series. And the fourth one turned out to be at a bed and breakfast in Jefferson, Texas, which is rich in history. And I got permission from the owner to use that bed and breakfast as a setting for the fictional mystery. And I took pictures. I included those in the book. I actually involved some of the townspeople. I took pictures from various places in Jefferson that the girls visit during their solving of the mystery. There's some old cemetery shots there from the Jefferson Cemetery that dates back to, well into the 1800s, early 1800s. And I included some of the history in the book. And, by doing that, it took longer to write that book because you're actually, involving history. I worked with a historian there in Jefferson who verified all the history that I included in the book to make sure it was accurate. And I had a good time doing that one. And when I had all the pictures in that fourth book, I decided to re-release the first 3 with illustrations. And the way I did that is I went to Legacy Christian Academy here in Frisco and worked with a middle grade art teacher. So I have 6th, 7th, and 8th grade artists who did work for the book. Each one of the 69 students has a picture in one of the first 3 books. And so we re-released those as illustrated editions. So I had great fun doing that. It's been great working with the kids.
Now, I really want to, because you've re-released them, I want to make sure that the series, the name of each book is available to those listeners. So is the first one in the series The Secret Room?
The first one that I wrote is The Christmas Garden, and it's Christmas Garden Illustrated. I added the word illustrated to each of the first 3 when I re-released them. So The first one was the Christmas Garden Illustrated, and the second one was The Golden Campout. And my King Charles Caviler Spaniel helped solve the mystery and got to be in the book. And so I've got his picture on the front of that one. And that one is The Golden Campout Illustrated. And then the third one is, the third one is Golden Campout. I skipped the second one. The second one was Grandfather's Blessing. And that's a Grandfather's Blessing Illustrated. And then the third one is Golden Campout Illustrated. And then The Secret Room was the fourth one, which takes place in Jefferson, Texas.
Now, are these similar to Hardy Boy books where you don't necessarily have to read them in order to have a kid enjoy them?
That's correct. The order is independent. The girls are the only consistent characters through the books, and the mystery is in a different place, and a different setting, and it involves a different group of people in each one. So they don't have to be read in order.
Now, the children that actually did the illustrations for you that are in Texas, I'm sure they had a blast doing them. How did they feel when they actually saw the books? Did they get copies of them, or did you do anything to help let them know how important their contribution was?
They did. I took 69 books, signed each one of them, and we had a book signing party. I made up a certificate of achievement for each of the students, and the class period was devoted to giving out the certificates and having each of the students sign a book that I've got that I will cherish forever, where each of the students, signed their drawing. So it was a fun day.
I bet it was. So now these books are, how old are these children that contributed to this now? Are they where they might be young budding authors that are listening to this interview?
So that was 2 years ago. So they're in high school, most of them now.
So it might be fun to have a little reunion party, John, and see how they're doing, and they can see how you're doing. Because
that'd be fun. Yeah, it's a good idea. Another thing I did when I first wrote The Christmas Garden was I gave a few copies to children in the neighborhood, and one of them lived next door, as it turned out. She took The Christmas Garden to school. The teacher read it, and she decided to read it with her students during the last period of the class throughout the first part of the year. And I got invited that spring to meet the author. And I found out that all of the children had read through the book with her teacher. And I got to have a get-together with third graders. It was 2 combined classes, full of energy. It's amazing the questions that they asked. And it was a thoroughly enjoyable time that I had with third graders.
So these are geared toward third graders. Fourth graders might enjoy them as well?
I think so. And by the time I got to the secret room, I had the sisters in the 5th and 6th grade, because they're a little more independent and acting, a little more brave on their own, so to speak. And so I think, even 4th, 5th graders might still enjoy them.
So are you planning to do more of these chapter books and get into various cities in Texas that have that kind of history?
I might do that. I had thought about that when I was doing the Jefferson book, but it certainly is more time consuming. Takes a lot more research and a lot more getting permission from the people involved that I bring into the story. But I may do that, but right now I am solely focused on picture books. I fell in love with rhyming in 2017, and I've been producing quite a few texts, and I need to polish those in this 12 by 12 program and get those ready to submit to agents and publishing houses.
That's awesome. And really your poetry is Christian inspirational poetry, I think is how we classify it. Is that also how you have based Timeless Tales?
Timeless Tales is, yes, it's certainly Christian inspirational poetry is how I would categorize it. I enjoy the rhyme and the rhythm, but I want to make sure that there's a great message there as well.
Now, what age group is Timeless Tales geared toward, John?
It's geared towards adults, but there's about 7 stories in there that kids and grandkids would enjoy.
There you go.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting. So we're getting ready to take another short break and take a look at our sponsors. When we come back, I really would like to focus on some of the groups that you're involved with, John, some of the places where you're going to be available for listeners and readers to meet and talk to. So will you stick around for the next segment?
Certainly, you bet.
What would you do if you had to put your life on hold to parent your parents? You have to laugh to keep from crying. How to Parent Your Parents is a must-read book full of antidotes and practical advice to help parenting your parents. Author Charlotte Canyon provides insights to help prepare anyone facing the challenges of caring for elderly parents. Check out our website at www.howtoparentyourparents.net.
Indie Lecture is a store for serious readers and indie authors. Find great talent at indielecture.store and save money on books with their book club. A portion of the proceeds helps get books into schools and libraries in need. Find a great book to read by an indie author at indielecture.store.
What started as a love letter to her son has become an international love letter for all parents to their children. Now you can read acclaimed author Shanalee Charbonneau's story to your children. When her son was very sick, she calmed him by singing her own song to him. She turned that song into the book, My Mama Loves Me, I'm Her Little Boy. She wrote 3 more magical books for all parents and kids 6 and under. Available at Indie Lecture, Amazon, and all.
And welcome back. I am with John Alexander, and I'm Rox Berkey, and I'm excited to, continue our conversation, John. It's been just wonderful learning about your poetry and your love of inspiring children to want to read. I think that's really important. So one of the things that fascinates me about you and how you've gone down this writing journey and author's journey is that now you are very much focused on honing your skills. So you belong to several different groups, and I really would like you to kind of share that with, some of the aspiring authors that are listening may want to follow some of your lead.
Certainly. So I think it's important to interact with other authors and find, as many ways possible to do that. I think one of the most important is critique groups. Get into a great critique group. I'm fortunate enough to be in a Write for Kids critique group, which meets once a month here in Frisco. And then I'm also in a second critique group. The difference being the second critique group is it's more than just children's books. It's all genres of writers. And so you get to sort of broaden your vision in terms of writing skills to more than just children's books. And then when I focused on picture books and self-published my first one, I decided I wanted to hone those skills even more. So I joined 12 by 12, and 12 by 12 is a wonderful organization for getting feedback from those who have been in the industry for quite a number of years, published authors, as well as, we just had a seminar at noon today from an agent of picture books and got a lot of useful information. You can get feedback on your query letters. You can just get all kinds of feedback from 12 by 12 as well. And then finding outlets so that you can interact with other authors at book festivals, for example. I was actually fortunate enough to be grant committee chairman for a couple of years at the North Texas Book Festival. And the last couple of years, we've had over 60 authors at tables, and you get to interact with other authors, meet other authors, find out their successes and, how well they're doing and how they're honing their craft. And then Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, SCBWI. We have a very active chapter in North Texas, and they have seminars almost monthly that are very inexpensive. And you meet some great people there, learn a lot of skills. So any way that you can hone your skills is very important.
Certainly. And I know you're also a member of Texas Authors, and you're involved in a lot of the activities that go on with that particular group. And there's always exciting things happening there. Where can people see you next? What's your next event?
The North Texas Book Festival in April, I will certainly be there. I've already got my table reserved. But if other things pop up between now and then, I will put it on my website. I've got an events tab there. So keep track, and you can even sign up for notifications and you'll get notified.
There you go. So one more time, why don't we tell the listeners what that website is, John, so they will be sure and check it out because it's fascinating.
AlexanderNovels.com.
All right. Well, John, I want to thank you. I mean, the conversation has just flown by, much like your words soar, and I've really enjoyed it. And I look forward to talking with you again soon. Do you have any parting comments?
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being here, a pleasure visiting with you. And if there are other authors out there, drop me a line. And readers, I'm always open to receiving email from readers and other authors. John at alexandernovels.com.
Thank you, John. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website at indiebeacon.com.